the floor to our next presenter, and I would invite Mr. Umita Vlakulov from the Green HiRECA project to, let's say, showcase us or present the open source planning tool for energy modeling and energy project. We have some problems with presentation. Yes, Regis, can you please stop sharing your screen? In this case, we can have presentation here. Okay, it's on. Thank you.
Yeah, I taken it down.
I think we just need a minute to make sure that the internet is working.
If it's just 1 minute, fine. In the interest of time, we'll. Okay, great. So we continue.
Can I have the remote control for presentation? We lost it, yeah? Okay. No. 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 It's open? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Sorry for technical challenge. Let me introduce myself. First of all, I'm Umita Vlakulov. Originally come from Uzbekistan, now part of the Rainer Limon Institute in Berlin. First of all, let me express my gratitude to organizers and participants for your time you allocated and for your effort you put in our innovation and energy development. Our today's topic will be on energy systems modeling and the open plan tool for energy systems modeling, which is developed by the Rainer Limon Institute. Okay, due to time constraints and due to your high expertise, I will jump over this first paragraph maybe. It's more about energy systems modeling and the urgency of energy modeling. One sentence about the urgency of modeling, why we need it. First of all, with the development of renewable energies and their integration into the systems, we need to develop modeling tools which shows some forecasts and insights for us. Today we're going to present open plan tool, which is developed by the RLI Institute. It's a programming tool which is based on cellular approach, which means we can cover every component of energy systems for modeling. So let's start it. Okay, The main approach is here bottom-up approach because we first of all we focus on energy consumption side. We supply the hourly demand of energy system, any kind of energy system, starting from households up to national energy systems to forecast capacities and cost and investment values. On these slides, we have described basics of the open plan tool. For example, the first approach is cellular. The second is cross-sectoral. The main important thing is it's open license. I mean, the tool is open license in open access. You can use it on the website, online, virtually. Okay, maybe. Yeah. Ishlab, no? Yes. Wait a moment. Yeah, now we have it. So beforehand, we've developed a project here for a showcase. What we should know about this tool. First of all, we should sign in. We should sign up, create a account for ourselves, and we can start from creating a project. Within the project, we can create scenarios, different scenarios to reach the planet target. For example, for our project, we selected Navoiy region, which is situated in central Uzbekistan. Why we selected Navoiy? First of all, it's a kind of symbolic city of Uzbek industry, where you can find mining industry, chemical industry, gold industry, first of all, and of course, energy industry. And Navoiy has the highest electricity consumption per capita in Uzbekistan. So because of that, we try to develop a project for Navoiy, and we set up 3 scenarios here. The first scenario is DCO Navoiy. We are going to supply electricity from only DCO. To do this, you should set up a scenario where you can show, let's say, some techno-economic data, which you can find on internet, on open sources. And the second, you should set up energy systems design. For example, the interesting part of the tool is here on the left side. If you pay attention to the left side, you can see here energy components. When I said cellular approach, I mean this, where you can set up every component of energy system which you are going to build. For example, here, the energy components are separated into providers, production facilities, conversion facilities, storage and demand facilities. The tool is very simple, and you can describe your own energy system here. It would be for your household, for your community, or for your city. One of the challenging points of this project might be to find the reliable data for consumption side, for example, for your community, for your city, you should have hourly data, for example, for a year of, let's say, for starting from 1 day up to 1 year. You should have this kind of data, and you can save it in Excel or CSV and use it in this. So beforehand, we just set up this project and scenario to show it. So the next point will be to set up constraints, to put some constraints. So because we are taking electricity from the grid, the public grid, we didn't install any kind of constraints here. So for the next projects, of course, we will put here some constraints. For example, the first is minimal degree of autonomy. It's in percentage. It will be between 0 and 1, which means from 0% to 100%. And the second constraint is minimal share of renewables, which you should install. For your system, for example, for your future system, of course, you should include some kind of renewables, such as solar or wind, which you can show here. For example, let's say 50% of your future consumption will be from renewables. So you can put here 0.5. And the next point is just you can run it, simulation. I mean, it looks like this. So the last part is results part. It will be the interesting point is you can find here the LCOE. We didn't set up any kind of constraints. Because of that, it stays like this, same with the electricity cost in Norway or in Uzbekistan. Or when you set up some constraints, of course, the numbers will be different. Let me jump to the next scenario. It will be more interesting to see it. So it's called Power to Norway. The project name is Power to Norway, and the scenario will be DCO, I mean distribution network plus renewables such as wind and solar, and we are going to supply electricity from the grid and plus renewables. The evaluated period will be 1 year. So this system design looks like this. We're going to take power from grid, from solar, and from wind. And to connect all energy components, the one thing is very important here, which is called bus or bus, which you connect with, for example, providers, or from production side to consumption side or to another side. You can connect with only bus. It's a kind of a technical requirement of the tool, which you shouldn't miss, or which you shouldn't forget. So it looks like this. If you construct, for example, if you put here solar and wind and set up all requirements, technical requirements, and then we can go to constraints, which is interesting here. So for this time, we installed, we put, let's say 60% of minimal degree of autonomy. And we asked the program, the tool, to calculate, for example, 60% of share of renewables in the system. Sorry, I should show something here. I forgot, sorry. So the load side looks like this for 1 year. When you develop your own data or extract from somewhere, it looks like this. And for example, for wind, you should put some techno-economic data also, which looks like this. For example, energy price, you can set up here, feed-in tariffs. If there is this kind of feed-in tariffs in your community or in your country, for example, in Kazakhstan, you can set up it here. You can show it here, and so different numbers here, for example, up to your situation or energy system, you can put these numbers differently and use it to simulate your forecasts. So for every component, you should set up this techno-economic data for every component. You can prepare this kind of data in Excel files or in CSV files, or you can just put this data directly here. Okay, how we can forecast of how we can develop production data for renewables, for example, for solar and wind. There are different websites where you can find sources such as Renewable Ninja. You can download yearly data, for example, for your PV installation by showing coordinates only on the Renewable Ninja. When you show coordinates, the platform automatically calculates everything for you for 1 year. For example, if you install 1 megawatt of PV, how much electricity you can produce for 1 year, and you show everything here. And for wind also, same process you should go through. And next point, yeah, we've set up constraints here. So let's simulate. So if you pay attention here, in Uzbekistan, the LCOE is, or power price is around 6 cents. But if we install so much, for example, PV and wind, and if we integrate them into the system, we can have less LCOE, for example, for a kilowatt of electricity, sorry. And as we see, the system set up the renewable factor and on-site energy fraction like this, and degree of autonomy, which we asked at the beginning. And of course, that's the result side where we can see how the cost looks like. For example, for the whole energy system, how much wind capex here. I mean, it shows the costs detailedly by separating into capex and opex for every energy component of the system. So on this graph, we can see how much electricity we can consume from wind, from solar, or from any part we installed. Maybe it will be more interesting if you are interested in renewables and excess energy. For example, renewables are green, of course, but they are volatile. You should use efficiently the produced energy, electricity from PV and wind installations. And of course, you should know, or you should know how to use the excess energy. For example, excess electricity. It shows here for our system. For example, we have 44 megawatt of excess electricity, which we are producing. And of course, we can use it for hydrogen, which we can show it in the next scenario. This time, we're going to install wind, solar, and hydrogen plus, because our today's session is dedicated to hydrogen development in Central Asia or in Uzbekistan. So this time we added hydrogen here. We added here electrolyzers. We connected every component with bus, which means delivers, and we put here a fuel cell energy saving system as hydrogen as an energy saving system, and of course we put here some hydrogen export. Let's say to it will be export to another sector, for example, to transport sector, or to another country. It might be. We are going to use excess energy for hydrogen consumption or hydrogen production here. This time also, we set up all techno-economic parameters of energy components here for every part of the production side and consumption side. It looks like this, as you see. And for hydrogen also, we should set up everything. The interesting point is here, you should develop your own data, and you should forecast how much hydrogen you should consume for your system or for your city or country, let's say.
Hello, I am Jobir Akhadov from National Renewable Energy Source Institute. We are used for study energy sector in Uzbekistan, use software PowerDix Island and ETAP. What kind of here similars and difference this is program you open plan software?
Okay, thank you for your question. I'm not so familiar with this with that programming tools which you mentioned, but this program tool is based on showing costs and capacities of electricity or any kind of energy supply. For example, when you give input data, you ask what kind of capacity you should have. The main input data will be hourly demand of your city, for example, which can be some gigawatt hours, and on the basis of this data, it develops how much capacity of renewables or how much capacity of electricity from the grid you should consume, you should take, or you should produce, and what will be cost. What are the LCOE, levelized cost of electricity, will be, and what kind of what's the percentage of degree of autonomy, for example, how much electricity you can produce on your own and how much electricity you should take from the grid. It will be based on hourly demand of your city, and it shows the costs mainly. What will be costs, for example? How much does it cost for you?
I would suggest let's quickly finish the presentation and then we can discuss in the coffee break, because we are all looking forward to this.
Thank you.
Both discussion while coffee break. And I know more.
And this time, this is software open for Uzbekistan also?
For everything. It's just an open source. Only thing you should do it, sign in this platform, in the website, and just use it. That's all. Of course, before that, you should go through this documentation folder and learn a bit about this tool, which is really easy to use after a couple of trainings, and you can use it And of course, it's a kind of open source for other bigger programming tools of Rainer Limon Institute.
Good, because we have both ishlab software, $12,000, and Dix Island Power also around $15,000 or $20,000. If this is open source, very
It's free.
very good.
Totally. So let's finish our presentation here. Maybe okay. This time when we installed hydrogen, or we asked to consider our hydrogen consumption, system gives clear calculations for that, how much electricity from renewables we should install, and how much electricity we should deliver for hydrogen production. For example, we can see this data on Sankey diagram. For example, I would say when we install set up some constraints, it might be that the open plan tool shows some unreal numbers, because we are going where we set up constraints. We ask some degree of autonomy and degree of renewable share, and we ask to focus on costs. On this case, for example, it's saying that we need to have 1.6 gigawatt of wind, which might be unreal for one city. But if you want to forecast a part of your consumption, of course, for less kilowatt hours, maybe you can develop your own project also. But it's working, and you can develop. But I cannot say that you should lean on 100% on one project or one scenario. You should practice it. You should see from different angles, different prospects. But at the same time, it gives real numbers. It gives real costs for your system, and you can include any kind of components for heating system, for electricity system also. And it might be interesting if you're interested in energy modeling. All right. Yeah. If you have any questions, just feel free to ask.
Thank you, Umid. Yes. Well, thank you for this presentation. I think it's very interesting and useful for the project developers, and it will give, again, as a tool, given that they won't have any constraints with initial data setup. But if that is not a constraint, the tool looks very useful and helpful for modeling and future project designs. Thank you very much. I think we continue this discussion over coffee break. I give a word to Mr. Berdiев about coffee break. Where is it going to be?
Да, на первом этаже за шоурумом мы покажем. Умит? Да, за умитом.
Только давайте недолгий кофе-брейк, потому что у нас еще есть дальше презентации интересные. Пожалуйста, возвращаемся. Нет, ну не за 1 минуту, но давайте 10 минут максимум. give the floor to my colleague Branko Milicevic to actually have presentation on the pilot projects that we are considering as possibility in international cooperation in sustainable hydrogen. This will give us maybe an opportunity to introduce the ideas from UNEC, but also to discuss later on what would be of interest in the countries, in Uzbekistan in particularly. Thank you. Branko, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Nadezhda. I don't know if we're going to have a slides on. No. But while we wait I'll start. What we will be discussing now briefly, maybe I'll be very quick, 10 minutes, to see what kind of possible projects we can do in hydrogen. When we say project in the United Nations, we don't necessarily mean okay. So in the United Nations, when we talk about projects, we mostly mean some sort of awareness raising. We mostly mean some public campaigns to explain the benefits or pros and cons of any concept, in this case, hydrogen. So for us to implement those activities are, thank you. Just to explain a few ideas of possible projects, international cooperation in this region, not necessarily in CIS countries, but particularly in this region. So okay. You can see here some countries that of our member states that are not covered by international hydrogen initiatives. At this time, mostly in the European Union, you have many initiatives such as International Partnership for Hydrogen and Fuel Cells in the Economy, or Hydrogen Europe, or Hydrogen Council, and others mechanisms that exist. But the countries that we typically organize capacity building, meaning the Central Asia, the Caucasus, Ukraine, Belarus, the West Balkans, Turkey, is not really covered by those initiatives. And our role at the UNEC would like to bring those countries and help them be more active in international mechanisms. For this reason, we've set up a hydrogen task force, as I already mentioned earlier, in June this year. The role of this task force under the Committee on Sustainable Energy is to promote dialogue, policy dialogue on hydrogen and cooperation in our region. It will also support currently implemented extra budgetary projects like the one for which we came today to Tashkent, and any future extra budgetary activity. And we also try to do a mapping to see who does what in order to avoid duplication of efforts. For this reason, we set up a hydrogen task force, which works in three, say, work streams: classification, value chain development, and synergies. In these three, we are trying to somehow engage various experts and have smaller groups of dedicated experts deal with specific activities under these three work streams. Now, in terms of projects that we are planning at this time, I've mentioned here three of them. One is dealing with classification, and the idea is how we can apply what we have already developed, which is United Nations Framework Classification and United Nations Resource Management System, to hydrogen projects. This UNFC and UNRMC have been our flagship products for quite some time. They deal with mineral resources, with renewable energy, with injection projects, and now we want to see whether this scheme could be applied to hydrogen projects. The second project in our pipeline is to develop hydrogen value chain in local clusters to decarbonize some hard-to-abate industries such as steel making or fertilizer or cement production. And then another project that would actually go talk about both classification and value chain development would promote international trade and associated finance and technology transfer in low emission hydrogen. This is what our German colleagues discussed today, and this is where we are hoping to reach out to Germany and see whether they would be interesting to support such an activity. More about the one project that I mentioned here. This is developing hydrogen value chain. We are now in a process in starting this project, first of all, looking for money to implement, but the goal here is to identify where industries that could be decarbonized with hydrogen. And then based on those, situations such as, you can think of typical older style built in maybe in the Soviet times industrial complex that is not energy efficient, but it could serve as a starting point to decarbonize, to replace maybe coal with hydrogen or through some other means. Based on those, we'd like to define some sort of guiding principles of how industrial decarbonization can happen with hydrogen or cannot happen. What are the obstacles to it? And then to illustrate those guiding principles through some model case studies and develop some more detailed pre-feasibility studies that would look into various technical, economic, environmental constraints to such projects. And we would certainly look to have one of those pre-feasibility studies done in Uzbekistan. The second project I mentioned is the application of United Nations Framework Classification for Resources to hydrogen projects. This system, UNFC, talks about feasibility, about geological knowledge, about economics of various energy projects. And now hydrogen, which is strictly not a resource, we would like to see how we can apply it to it. In this case, we are actually looking to apply this to hydrogen projects, not to specific quantity, specific kilogram of hydrogen. So we are talking about whether a project is viable from the perspective of their economic, environmental, and social dimensions. And greenhouse gas emission associated with producing 1 kilogram of hydrogen is just one of metrics used here. But other, as I said, economic, environmental, and social consideration should also be there. It could be 50 of them or 15 or 10. It remains to be decided what kind of framework could be used to actually measure the sustainability of hydrogen projects. Another one is, as we heard today, there are a lot of interest to produce hydrogen elsewhere, from Namibia to Australia to Kazakhstan to Uzbekistan, and see how that hydrogen could be sold elsewhere and should that be done. We already know, even from our German colleagues, that the possible first step should be definitely using it locally in industrial clusters and then export excess hydrogen if possible, when becomes possible. Here are many things that needs to be done. It's very easy to say, but even when we heard the idea about injecting hydrogen into, say, natural gas pipelines, technically that can be done, but you are bound by a contract. So if a buyer wanted to buy 100% methane and you are selling him something diluted with the different, Wabe index, technical properties, and so on, and there would be some consequences. So they want to get what they paid for, or they had a contract. So there are many other obstacles to blending in this case, and definitely we feel that we could help with that. Another idea is, it's not really only about we'll come to take your resources, but there should also be some sort of a two-way technological transfer and finance involved, so that there is a mutual, it's not really a neo-colonialism in the sense that you come and take what you need and pay maybe for it, but also develop what's called local content. Connected to this is also the need to define what's called a guarantee of origin for hydrogen. There is already one for renewable energy, and now how we know that hydrogen is, if I may say, green or low emission, who will certify that? So there is a separate process from classification and certification. Classification is just the business of saying this is how it should be, but certification is really the process of who actually gave you this guarantee that you indeed buying what you believe it is. Now, a slight digression here, because I wanted to share this with you. I think it's important to make sure we all speak with the same language. Practically, when we talk about consumption of hydrogen, we talk about how many kilograms, how many tons or millions tons we need. When we talk about production of hydrogen, we often talk about installed capacity of electrolyzers, and you hear some megawatts, gigawatts of installed power, and often people do not really connect this kilowatt installed versus ton produced, and what is bigger, how does it stand against each other? Well, actually, it depends what kind of assumptions you make, how you convert from one to the other. So what we know that 1 kilogram of hydrogen, if burned, like enthalpy of combustion, if you like, of hydrogen is about, in electricity units, it's about 40 kilowatt hours of energy, or 150 something megajoules per kilogram. Now, if electrolyzer conversion efficiency, say 60%, which means that of 100% of electricity that is fed into electrolyzer, 60% of it goes towards hydrogen production. And you can also assume that those electrolyzers cannot operate year-round. There should be downtime for maintenance and other reasons. Assumption, rather optimistic, is 7,000 hours per year. So based on this, to produce 1 kilogram of hydrogen in one given year, you will need to put in place 10 watts of installed electrolyzer power. For 1 ton, you will need 10 kilowatts. For 1,000 ton, you would 10 megawatts and so on. But why this is very kind of good to understand, because today to actually buy one electrolyzer, you need to spend about $3, $4, $5 maybe dollars for each watt installed. That means that 1 kilogram of hydrogen to produce in a year, you need to have an upfront investment of about $30 to $50 for electrolyzer alone. And then another investment for whatever electricity comes from. So which means that if the life of electrolyzer is, say, 20 years, with no additional amortization and cost, you already have to, your kilogram of hydrogen only cost about $2 to $3 just to pay off this capex, this upfront capital investment. So my point is that hydrogen is extremely expensive. When you think about what you need to put in place, it's easily in the range or rate about $10 per kilogram as we speak now. When you count electrolyzer, solar panels, wind turbines, the transmission lines, and et cetera. So just to produce is in place without extra cost associated with the exports and shipping elsewhere, it's possibly about $10 per kilogram, which is practically equivalent as if you pay, say, $5 per liter of gasoline, more or less. So we are not nearly where we should be, and this is another reason why we believe that all projects should start on a low scale, locally, and a lot of efforts should be put into education and understanding people what those numbers mean, where we stand today, and how we can go down the cost to reduce the cost of various components through research, some of which we heard today, and maybe employ some alternative approaches, as we also heard today. Maybe not electrolysis is the way, maybe some thermolysis of hydrogen is the way to go in some cases, and that may well be in Uzbekistan. So this is what I had to present today. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Branko. Originally in the program, we had another speaker who prepared a video address. But if I may also, in my role of moderator, just switch a little bit the order, and I would invite Mr. Pierluigi Leone as a professor from the Polytechnical University of Turin to make presentation. Okay, yes. And I think your presentation would be some sort of response to some of the ideas and... Нет, другую поставьте презентацию. Следующее, да. Доктор Pierluigi Leone. You need to provide the name. Mhm. So yeah, I would suggest that we start discussion after your presentation, because I know I kind of anticipate some responses, but also some additional aspects. Mhm.
If I start the microphone, that's much better. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Pierluigi Leone. I am professor from Politecnico di Torino, Italy. We have since 2029 a collaboration with the Turin Polytechnic University in Tashkent. So, I mean, it's a long period that I come in Uzbekistan since more 13 years. And finally, after all this long time, this year, finally, we started collaborating with the Uzbek colleagues, not just on education part, but also in this interesting research technology transfer project. This project is a feasibility study, pre-feasibility study about producing an hydrogen pilot plant in the area of Karshi. It is done in collaboration with the Agency of Innovative Development of this ministry. And it is done by a mixed team of Italian and Uzbek colleagues. So two of these four people are sitting in this room, I and Nodira from TTPU, and the other two people are connected from Torino, an Uzbek student, PhD student that is now at Polito, and an Italian colleague, Marco, that I greet from here. So what about this project? Okay, so following an input from the colleague from the Agency of Innovative Development, we started to consider a pilot project in Karshi area, so in the southern part of Uzbekistan. So we did the first preliminary field assessment there to understand which kind of resources we have, land availability, power availability for feeding the electrolyzers in case of not enough production from the renewable power sources, understanding the infrastructure for power, for water supply, and also potential off-takers that could finally use the hydrogen produced in our plant. So finally, as a first short-term pilot project, we identified two public buses consuming about, as an estimation, about 15 tons per year of hydrogen. So quite a small plant, not microscopic, by the way, so significant. And now I will show. So this is the starting point. So we have these off-takers for public transport. Good sector because they currently use diesel, so it could be a good decarbonization option. Also, as you know, transport sector is a key market entry for hydrogen technology. So the technical layout is quite easy here, the schematic. So we have an electrolyzer that is powered, of course, for the greatest part from solar energy produced on site, but also there is an option to be fed from electricity from the grid. Then we have a buffer to uncouple a bit the consumption with the production. And then we have the refueling station part where hydrogen is needed at high pressure. As you know, for vehicle application, hydrogen is needed at about 700 bars to give a sufficient energy density within the car. For buses, the industrial standards nowadays is about 350 bars as pressure within the tank. So if we make here a zoom a bit in the just to give to the engineers present in the room some more satisfaction, let's say. So the refueling station is based on cascading dispensing. That is one very, common technologies for this kind of application. So we have finally 3 levels of storage: 30 bars, 450 bars, and 950 bars that are needed to feed these buses with, with the real application. So having a short lingering time, having enough reliability in hydrogen supply. This setup could be also used for vehicle, by the way, because we have this high-level storage that could be used later, if interesting, even to feed the cars, hydrogen fueled cars. So these are some numbers, technical numbers. So the electrolyzers could be the optimal size that we estimated is around 250 kilowatts. The PV size is 60 kilowatt. Then, as you see, we have 3 different levels of storage with 50 kilograms of hydrogen, 100 kilograms of hydrogen at medium pressure storage, and a small storage of 25 kilograms at 950 bars, as I said. The refueling station has this capability to feed the buses with 3-4 kilograms per minute of hydrogen, so quite fast. In 10 minutes, we can complete the refueling of a bus whose tank is around 40 kilograms. And also the lingering time is 2-3 hours. It means that after 2 hours, 3 hours, we can again do another refilling. So if there is another bus that is needed to be refueled, the technical capability of this setup is able to provide this kind of performances. So these are some energy balances that we estimated. So 80% of electricity would be produced by photovoltaic system and 20% from the grid. Of course, we could also, I would say, propose design where 100% of electricity could be supplied by photovoltaic, but this could make the PV system too big and finally rising too much the cost. So 80%, 50% could be a good balance to have, enough energy supplied from the PV sources. As you see, most of the electricity that is produced from the PV system is used by the electrolyzer plant. More than 85% is used on site for the electrolyzed operation. The operating factor is very low. On average, only 36% of the capacity of the electrolyzer per year is used. So it is actually, it is a bit oversized, but unfortunately it can happen. Let's say if we do not want to oversize storages and so on. Here, just a comment. If we consider the emission factor from the Uzbek electricity mix, this hydrogen would not be so green because finally we have a mix where natural gas is extensively used. So if we consider efficiency, conversion efficiency, of course, we have hydrogen that is produced with an emission intensity lower than the benchmark, the state of art at the European level for steam reformed hydrogen, but still a significant carbon footprint. I will comment later this part. So just some numbers about the capex. So the capex are estimated from our previous experience with industrial project. It is not really tailored for this plant. Because some equipment are not really modular, so we adapted, so we should review a bit the economic part by meeting some vendors, but they are quite feasible. So this plant would have 2 million euro of capex and around 36,000 euro per year of opex. Unit costs are aligned with the costs that were discussed before. So in the standard, let's say, in the nominal configuration, we have around 13, let's say, euro per kilogram of hydrogen production. If you see here, around 9 euro per kilogram is associated with the production cost. The rest is, on the other end, associated with the hydrogen refueling station. So at the pump, finally, the cost will be around 13 euro per kilogram. There is some space to reduce it. So this is an overview about cost. And we started, how to say, drafting some financial outlook just to a bit simulate some policy scenario. So the first policy scenario is just selling, it is not a policy scenario actually, it is just selling at 13 euro per kilogram. So around the cost of production, and this is of course giving a net present value 0 after the end of life, let's say as definition. Then we start to introduce a premium fare that is available in European market for advanced green fuel. For example, in Italy today we have around 2.15 euro per kilogram for hydrogen production. Here we estimated 3 euro per kilogram, just to show how it could change, no, and a business of this kind by having this policy supporting scheme. Another option that we explored, it is the European Union structure of the Innovation Fund. The Innovation Fund is a fund at the European level that is very tight with the emission trading scheme. It is, by the way, it is a capital grant based on this structure. So 40% of capital grant is upfront and 60% is given in 10 years. And finally, here there is a mixed, let's say, scenario that will give another, let's say, financial outcome, okay? But this is how this kind of business at fixed capex, at fixed condition, can change a lot according to the regulation that you have in place. Not talking about technical standards and so on. Some upscaling considerations. So as I told you, so the sizes of the different components could be still, could be rescaled, and so this is to say that there is the opportunity with the same refueling station to feed up to 7 buses. Of course, in this case, increasing the PV system, the PV sides, and the electrolyzer sides. So having 1.3 megawatt electrolyzer and 3 megawatt solar system, we could feed up to 7 buses. In this case, the unit cost would drop a bit. You see, the production cost is almost the same as before, but what is dropping is the cost for refueling station, because actually, we use better, let's say, the capacity that we have. So let me just say the idea. So this pilot project is a framework, okay? It's a framework that we want to explore with the Ministry of Innovation to roll out technologies, to meet Uzbek companies or international companies that want to invest and want to work here, to involve PhD students, to create a network of people. Of course, this should be just a seed to do other stuff. So here we are also looking at some scenarios for further use. So this could be the domestic use. So here we've mapped the most important hubs, logistic hubs in Uzbekistan, but also some application for railway. You know that in the country there are some non-electrified areas that could that could benefit from some hydrogen technologies and so on. Okay, that does matter. Also for industry, there is an opportunity for oil refining. We were discussing before with our colleague. There is already some use of hydrogen, but produced from steam reforming. And in this in Uzbekistan, given the production, could be about 0.4 million tons of hydrogen per year that could be produced. And also a good opportunity for hydrogen in ammonia production sector. And then there is the export that has been mentioned even by many colleagues. I agree that it is very important to look at the domestic side, then considering also opportunity for export. But Uzbekistan is not placed bad, let's say, because there are connections to Russia, there are connections to China, and here there was a trilateral agreement between. So nowadays Uzbekistan is connected with Turkmenistan. There is a trilateral agreement between Turkmenistan, Iran, and Azerbaijan. So this could be a direction for EU connection. Then there is also India connection that could be explored. because of the TAPI pipeline that is planned, let's say. And then no, planned. I said planned. It's just and then the existing connection to Russia and China. So this is just my conclusion. What I want to say is that okay, it is a framework now that we hope it will grow in future. However, already some let's say weaknesses can be are evident. In Europe, if you take electricity from the grid, no problem, because you just buy electricity with guarantees of origin and your hydrogen is green. Okay, so here, for example, if you look at the electricity from the network, missing the guarantees of origin framework, for example, there is still a problem for certifying green hydrogen, unless you think to produce it completely from renewable. That, of course, could increase cost. And then, of course, policies and supporting scheme could be important, at least at the beginning, to help this business. So, thanks. I think I was a bit long. No.
No,
Yeah.
no, no, absolutely okay. Thank you very much for this presentation. Again, if I may, in my role now to ask similar questions, but you partially, Pierluigi, responded to this, but I would like also to ask the question to Mr. Shuhratishev in relation to the presentation of Pierluigi. How is also you think from a perspective of the Agency for Innovative Development that this project would really showcase or help to show the potential of hydrogen and its development in Uzbekistan?
Ну, в общем, этот проект инициировали мы сами, и мы попросили нашего дорогого гостя Pierluigi помочь нам для разработки этого технико-экономического обоснования. Я думаю, на уровне сегодняшнего дня и на уровне пилотного проекта результаты вполне удовлетворительные. Вот. Ну и в будущем, я думаю, лет через 5-10 это будет уже в промышленном масштабе будет реализовано. Мы еще с Леони будем дорабатывать это и постараемся в ближайшие годы там реализовать этот проект.
Спасибо большое за ваш ответ. In your presentation, you actually indicated what are the next steps and how this project can show the bigger work that needs to be done. But now my question is addressing to Branka. Branka, how do you think, what is the role, what could be the role, and if there is a role of the Hydrogen Task Force, how can it support also this project and similar projects, also development?
I think, as I said, we have this value chain development, and I like your project very much because it connects the idea of you have renewable energy, installation, solar, but also connected to the grid too, because as you rightly said, it's only on like 36% of the time.
Yeah.
Well, for electrolyzer, you need much more hours. You cannot really just on and off. You have to be on a certain, temperature and operational level. So these synergies between grid connection and renewable energy can optimize the actual cost in terms of you don't need so much installation, upfront in renewable energy. But my question, I can ask you publicly. So those fuel cell buses are not there yet. It's only. Yep.
Yes, fuel cell buses. There is a market in Europe, of course, early market for sure, with costs that are quite expensive. The good thing is that, as you know, Uzbekistan is a very important country for car production. I think around 300,000 cars are produced every year for Central Asia. So for sure they have knowledge. The industry is alive, and they could, let's say, not easily, but they could implement fuel cell vehicles and buses. As you know, also here, most of the automotive sector is based on already CNG technology. So they know quite well how to manage compressed gas within vehicles. So again, when we talk about hydrogen, we need standards, we need whatever you want, but they already have the huge fleet of cars running on CNG, no? So the expertise there. So also this project is a bit, since he's also a Minister of Innovation, helping all the stakeholders that are already in that business to innovate and to be ready themselves when hydrogen economy will come. So this is a bit also the idea, no, to help modernizing these sectors. But okay, there are by the way many problems to solve that we cannot do it alone. So if help from everyone, very
Thank you very much indeed. We're finishing this part on understanding that this is a complex issue, right? That it's not only one project issue or one, I mean, one standard setting up, but it's a complex issue and should be considered by different stakeholders. Thank you very much again for your presentation, Branko, for your presentation too. If we can now put the video address from a colleague from China, actually Professor Dongfang from the Faculty of Materials Science and Engineering of the Kunming, if I'm pronouncing correctly, University of Science and Technology. So let's listen to his address to us. Yes, well, it was interesting, very technical, highly technical presentation. I have learned that we have also 2 questions from the participants online. If we can just show the questions. And I think we will have to understand to whom from the participant of the last session they are addressed. Может, вы просто чат покажете? John, there is a question to you. What will be the cost per mile or kilometer of the for the pipeline?
This is grossly unfair. You're asking to do mental arithmetic. If you think that, well, okay, the cost for very, very roughly 2000, let me get this right. I need to do my additions. 800 kilometers plus 1800 kilometers, 2800 kilometers plus another 800 kilometers. We're talking about 3,600 kilometers of pipeline costing 18 billion. And that was for gas. If you're going to do it for hydrogen, my guess is that the quality of steel and the quality of sealing is going to have to be higher. You're going to have to maintain the pressure better, and you're going to have to make sure that there aren't leaks. So that coming in at 18 billion, I would guess, shall we say, and it would have to go further because it wouldn't necessarily connect with the gas system. I would have said we are talking about 25 billion for 4,000 kilometers. So that is, shall we say, 6 billion per 1,000 kilometers. Now that is a very, very rough, I would say it might be as much as 50% more than that or 20% less than that. But I'm trying to give a scale of what it costs. In other words, it is horrendously expensive to build a long-distance purpose-built hydrogen pipeline. And the problem is that ideally you would want to use existing gas pipelines. But if those gas pipelines are not there or cannot be adapted, then you're stuck with an impossible cost.
Thank you for your answer. The second question is actually addressed to Umita Vlakulov, but he left already our forum. But maybe if any of you would like to comment also about the seasonal variability of fuel costs, and that would be also depending on pretty much where we are talking about this, but it's also under which condition. I mean, I don't know if anyone would like to comment on this. In any case, we will address this question directly to Mr. Avlakulov that he can respond to Regis. I see no reaction or no enthusiasm to answer this question, so that this question will go directly to Umid for his answer. And with this, and on this note, we also finishing this part, our session 3, that we were speaking about the business cases and the project possibilities for development of the sustainable hydrogen market. Actually, I'm looking for Sanjar to give the floor to him, but that we have another session which he should moderate. The session which would be devoted to the presentation of annual report on the state of development of the hydrogen energy in Uzbekistan. But in the interest of time, maybe Mr. Parpiv, I'll give you the floor to say, because you're the first speaker indicated, yes, and then Mr. Parpiv.
Да, здравствуйте еще раз. Значит, эта сессия посвящена обсуждению или докладам тех работ, которые финансируются Министерством образования, науки и инноваций, и которые направлены на разработку технологий в сфере водородной энергетики. Ну, в своем докладе я отметил, какие работы ведутся в Институте материаловедения Академии наук. Здесь небольшая информация, обобщенная, которая даст возможность понять все-таки, какие задачи были поставлены перед нашими учеными и чего мы достигли за последние 3 года. Значит, во-первых, еще раз хотелось бы поблагодарить уважаемое министерство за поддержку наших научных исследований, так как, к сожалению, это министерство является единственным министерством, которое поддерживает научные исследования в сфере водородной энергетики. Значит, кроме финансирования научных исследований, ведется большая работа по подготовке кадров. Есть специальная программа, в соответствии с которой молодые ученые, наши докторанты, проходят стажировку в научных лабораториях, лучших лабораториях мира. У нас тесные отношения в этой сфере с Корейским институтом промышленных технологий, Национальной лабораторией по водородной энергетике в Швейцарии, Дрезденским техническим университетом. Так, с Российской Федерацией работаем 2 института Академии наук. Пока у нас более 20 наших молодых ученых, докторантов прошли стажировки именно в этих центрах. Цель – научить нашу молодежь работать в высокотехнологичном оборудовании, которое позволяет получать, хранить и использовать водород, соответственно. Значит, Институт материаловедения закончил 2 проекта и работает над 3 проектами сейчас. Как я уже сказал, мы создали малую солнечную печь, которая позволяет концентрировать энергию, которую можно использовать для разделения воды. Разработано несколько видов термохимических реакторов. Вообще-то могу взять на себя смелость сказать, что это впервые в мире. Аналоги имеются, конечно, в Испании. Испанские коллеги пытались получить водород с помощью фототермохимического реактора, но почему-то не достигли, по-моему, успеха, поэтому остановили исследования. Но мы решили продолжить эту работу. На следующий год у нас завершение проекта по созданию реакторов, так что мы надеемся получить какой-то уже результат. Значит, совместно с Институтом теплофизики Китай разработан еще один термохимический реактор. То есть коллаборация у нас всего итого 4 термохимических реактора, с помощью которых можно получать водород. Образцы, как я уже говорил, что на 1-м этаже на выставке находятся. Если интересно, можно будет посмотреть. Значит, с нами вместе работает физико-технический институт Академии наук. Они как раз-таки с китайскими партнерами нам предложили свой реактор для проведения испытаний на большой солнечной печи. Значит, вместе с нами работает Национальный университет. У них как раз-таки проект направлен на теоретические исследования для создания фотокатализаторов. Сейчас как раз-таки первый этап они проводят, и проведены теоретические расчеты. Вообще-то это очень такой интересный проект, так как катализаторы сами по себе, конечно, помогают больше вырабатывать водородной энергии и снижать потребляемую энергию. Но фотокатализаторы, как известно, они могут работать и без дополнительной энергии синтеза. Но, конечно, выход маленький. У нас в планах использовать эти фотокатализаторы именно с применением концентрированной солнечной энергии. Надеемся, выход водорода еще увеличится. Помимо как раз-таки некоторые результаты, я думаю, уже основную часть уже рассказал. Значит, сюда подключились наши университеты. Сейчас Ташкентский государственный технический университет, в факультете энергетики создана кафедра водородная энергетика, в котором как раз-таки проводятся лекции с привлечением наших ученых из Академии наук, то есть идет подготовка кадров. В прошлом году в Институте материаловедения впервые создана докторантура. В этом году мы принимаем 8 новых докторантов, а в прошлом году 8. То есть итого у нас за 2 года 16 докторантов, молодых специалистов. Мы надеемся, что из них получатся в будущем специалисты именно по водородной энергетике. Значит, ну, в планах, конечно, создать и ученый совет, который будет давать ученые степеня для уже использования этих научного потенциала в качестве, может быть, руководителей будущих проектов. Значит, какие у нас планы, что мы ожидаем в близком будущем и в дальнейшем? Значит, все-таки довести до предприятия, до бизнеса, что с помощью концентрированной солнечной энергии можно получать, вообще-то и нужно получать водород. Дело в том, что имея в руках большую энергию, не использовать ее в промышленности, ну, наверное, просто грех. Поэтому помимо водородной энергетики, с помощью и в поддержке Агентства инновационного развития, мы работаем над новой технологией по получению карбонового волокна, который прочнее металла 5 раз и легче 10 раз. Образцы как раз таки у нас, первые образцы, полученные на солнечной энергии, находятся здесь. То есть с помощью солнца можно получать очень много, особенно синтезировать новые материалы. Но все-таки концентрация идет на пока солнечную энергию. Значит, у нас уже имеются образцы реакторов для получения водорода, для хранения разработаны нанопористые материалы. Это как раз-таки совместно с Туринским политехническим университетом в Ташкенте. Наши опыты показывают, что до 13% водорода они могут в себя впитывать. Самый лучший показатель в мире – это 5, ну, максимум до 10%. То есть дело в том, что этот материал, еще раз повторяюсь, он из местного сырья на основе циолита и оксида алюминия. То есть он очень дешевый. Металлогидридовые основа нанопористых материалов, они, конечно, больше впитывают водород, но так как там используется платина, она очень дорогая. И еще одно направление, как использовать водород. Опять же, здесь находится образец первого топливного элемента, который разработан учеными Узбекистана. На следующий год у нас запланировано испытание этого топливного элемента. То есть у нас сейчас получается получить водород путем расщепления воды. Правда, он не особо чистый, пока 66%. То есть это с примесью все-таки пара, воды. Но в будущем будем очищать дальше. Можем хранить водород безопасно, между прочим, и ее использовать в топливном элементе для получения уже электричества или использования в транспорте. И перед нами еще поставлена большая задача все-таки доводить наши результаты исследований до рынка. Это, конечно, без международной коллаборации просто невозможно. Поэтому сейчас мы работаем над созданием такого консорциума с привлечением наших коллег из-за рубежа. Возможно, это будет нечто подобное долины зеленых технологий, где будут проводиться исследования по синтезу материалов, по испытанию различных технологий и материалов. Кстати, к нам уже подключается Техасский университет в Далласе, Центр нанотехнологий, предлагает помимо получения водорода заниматься получением углеродных нанотрубок. То есть на базе солнечной печи образуется такой своеобразный научный хаб, где будут проводиться исследования по разработке и испытанию зеленых технологий. Еще раз большая благодарность, особенно начальнику управления Санджару Бердиеву, вам большое, Шухрат Исаеву, большая благодарность за поддержку. Еще раз повторяюсь, без поддержки государства эти исследования остались бы где-то там на полке. Еще раз говорю, к сожалению, пока еще наши отрасли экономики достаточно внимания просто не уделяют. Единственное, кто поддерживает, это президент страны, который подписал постановление президента по развитию в Узбекистане водородной энергетики. Но я думаю, сообща мы можем достичь очень хороших результатов. Спасибо за внимание.
Rahmat. Bizni oxirgi forumimiz oxirgi qismi demak O'zbekistonda vodorod energetikasini rivojlanishiga bag'ishlangan qismi edi. Asosiy hisobotlar bo'yicha
hisobotlar berildi. Hozir bizda asosan ilmiy tadqiqot ishlari, innovatsion ishlarni olib borayotgan asosiy ilmiy tadqiqot institutlarimiz forumda qatnashmoqda. Vaqtimiz cheklanganligini hisobga olib, umumiy hisobotni biz aniq keyin yozma holatda beramiz va saytda e'lon qilamiz. Shuning uchun men yana bitta narsani e'lon qilmoqchi edim. Hozir yopilish marosimidan oldin bizda UNICE hamkorligida o'tkazilgan xalqaro forum haqiqatan biz kutgan darajadan yuqori saviyada o'tdi deb o'ylayman. Shu munosabati bilan O'zbekiston Respublikasi Innovatsion rivojlanish agentligi tomonidan forumimizni chet ellik xorijiy ishtirokchilariga esdalik sovg'alarimiz bor edi. Ruxsat bersanglar, shu esdalik sovg'alarni topshirsak. Alik Duzubinskiy Birlashgan Millatlar Tashkilotining Yevropa iqtisodiy komissiyasining energetika bo'yicha mintaqaviy maslahatchisi. Так. Nadejda Hamrakulova Birlashgan Millatlar Tashkilotining Yevropa iqtisodiy komissiyasining iqtisodiy ishlar bo'yicha bosh mutaxassisi. Branko Belisovich Yevropa OONni Yevropa ittifoqi demak BMTning Yevropa iqtisodiy komissiyasining iqtisodiy ishlar bo'yicha bosh maslahatchisi. Так, John Roberts. Energiya xavfsizligi bo'yicha mutaxassis, Meksik, Buyuk Britaniya. Paul, Project Management, Grey High. Paul hozir chiqib ketgan, keyin beramiz. Tak. Alisa Kim, KPMG Engineering. Liana Baisit, demak, yashil moliya va yashil iqtisodiy sohada mustaqil ekspert. Pierluigi Leone, Turin Politecnica Universiteti Italiya professori. Umid Avdakulov, Grand High Range Project expert. Так, Timur Valamadze, Tojikiston Respublikasi, sanoatni rivojlantirish va innovatsiyalar jamg'armasining energetika bo'yicha bosh ekspert. Xalqaro forumda asosiy bosh ma'ruza bilan ishtirok etgan Fanlar akademiyasining matematika instituti direktori Odilxo'jayev Parfiyev. Hammaga rahmat. Hozir rahbarimiz anaqada pergovorda bo'lganlari uchun 5 minutlik hozir tanaffus qilamiz. O'sha tanaffus vaqtida hozir kimda qanaqadir forum bo'yicha savollar, takliflar bo'lsa marhamat. Bo'ldimi? Turamiz. Kutdim, yopilib. 1 minutga. Hamma.
Как вы заметили, я буквально на короткое время отсутствовал. Да. Если разрешите тогда, передам сначала слово вам.
Спасибо. Потом. Уважаемые коллеги, спасибо за очень продуктивную сессию всем. То есть я начну с благодарности. То есть первое, конечно, огромное спасибо нашей принимающей стороне, нашим хозяевам, Министерству высшего образования, науки и инноваций во-первых, за прекрасную организацию всей инновационной недели и вот того форума, который мы сегодня с вами проводили. А дальше уже, так сказать, благодарность идет, во-первых, всем участникам за интересные презентации и плодотворные дискуссии. Вот хочу особо поблагодарить моих коллег Надежду Хамракулову и Бранка Миличевича. Это их детище, это то, что они долго готовили совместно с представителями министерства, агентства и другими коллегами, и как бы без них ничего бы не получилось. Вот. С моей точки зрения форум прошел очень продуктивно, но в данном случае судить вам, поскольку этот форум это прежде всего для Узбекистана, и мы хотим увидеть, чтобы он принес пользу, чтобы после того, как мы сегодня встретились, выступили, обсудили, поговорили, чтобы дальше были конкретные шаги. Ну вот, я думаю, что на этом я свое короткое заключительное слово закончу и передам слово директору агентства.
Спасибо большое, коллеги. Большое вам спасибо. На самом деле, думаю, мы сегодня с вами собрались для обсуждения очень актуальной тематики, которая актуальна не только в Узбекистане, но и в целом мире. И я думаю, в этом вопросе поддержка наших коллег очень важна. И не просто поддержка. Я думаю, сегодняшняя встреча, она ознаменуется таким очень хорошим толчком. Я не скажу стартом, потому что старт был дан уже немного ранее, но хорошим толчком для того, чтобы мы развивали данную технологию, вообще технологии в Узбекистане. Я думаю, для этого у нас есть определенные возможности и, конечно, задел. И, пользуясь случаем, хочу отдельно еще поблагодарить наших коллег, которые активно участвовали и участвуют постоянно в реализации таких проектов, вообще программ. Со своей стороны хотел бы еще раз сказать, что наше министерство, в том числе наше агентство инновационного развития, очень заинтересовано и всячески готово к новым проектам, к новым возможностям, которые мы можем реализовать совместно. Буквально до этого у меня была возможность встретиться с несколькими нашими коллегами, которые тоже участвуют в нашей неделе инноваций. И суммируя, что мы хотим сказать, что если мы объединим наши усилия в решении конкретных проблем, я думаю, мы сможем найти хорошие решения и не просто решения, а воплотить эти решения в реальность. И в этом вопросе, конечно, очень важен вопрос финансирования. Финансирование, как бы не было увеличено со стороны нашего государства, это всегда не хватает, его недостаточно. Поэтому, я думаю, после сегодняшних обсуждений будет у нас и неформальная часть, которая как раз-таки после нашей встречи последует, и мы хотим всех вас пригласить на этот наш ужин, в котором мы можем обсудить дальнейшие шаги для того, чтобы мы могли привлечь дополнительное финансирование, где агентство наше готово участвовать в софинансировании. Я думаю, это тоже определенная будет возможность для получения и привлечения таких грантовых средств, для инвестиций. Но в целом говоря, меня очень всегда радует, что есть определенный у нас общество, которое всячески поддерживает развитие водородных технологий в Узбекистане. И я думаю, что это общество с каждым годом будет увеличиваться, так как у нас, мы вначале тоже говорили об этом, в Государственном техническом университете в Ташкенте уже создано направление, люди уже обучаются. Я думаю, постепенно число таких людей, членов нашего общества, будет увеличиваться. Еще раз хочу поблагодарить, не буду томить, долго говорить. Всем вам большое спасибо, и мы всегда рады и готовы к сотрудничеству. Большое спасибо. Спасибо. Спасибо.
Конечно,
Спасибо. Спасибо большое.